And he's telling them, notice verse 3, behold, thou hast instructed many, thou hast strengthened the weak hands, thy words have upholden him that was fallen, thou hast strengthened the feeble knees, but now it comes upon thee, and thou faintest. It touches thee, and thou art troubled. Is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and the uprightness of thy ways? Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished, be it innocent, or what were the righteous cut off. So now, he is telling Job in these first few verses, look at the things you have done. How you have been there for others. And now, it's changed. Now you are the one that's suffering. You know, it makes a difference, doesn't it? You know, we can be there one for another, and we should. But then whenever we encounter those difficult times, it can be very hard to deal with. You know, the old saying goes, the shoe's on a different foot now. And so you know, he knows what all he's gone through, and he understands that. And he said, Job, have you forgotten the lessons that you've taught others throughout the years? That's the primary situation in verses 3 through 6. Don't forget how you've been there for others and what you've taught them. And, you know, but notice verses 7 through 11. Remember, I pray thee, whoever perished, be it innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils they are consumed. The roaring of the lion, and the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perished for lack of prey, and the stout lion's whelps are scattered abroad. So, in verses 7 through 11, he's pretty much establishing the philosophy that God always punishes the evildoers and rewards those who are righteous. And so why do you suppose he's making this statement to Job at this time? Is he accusing Job of being an evildoer at this point? No, he's not, is he? Job, as we saw in the first few verses, remember what you've done. How that you've been there for others, you've taught this type thing. Now you're suffering yourself. But in these last few verses, remember, Job, God punishes the evildoers and he blesses the righteous.
Almost like an encouragement.
That's exactly right, it is. He is, as we mentioned, he is of the three friends, he's really the only one that's going to give any encouragement. And he is, at this point, you're right, it is a sign of encouragement. Job, consider what you've done. And Job, don't feel sorry for yourself. God's with you. He ain't necessarily saying that, but that's what he's implying here. God blesses the righteous. So it is indeed words of encouragement. And, of course, Job, he understandably, he's lost everything. He's confused somewhat right now. What's going on? How do I deal with this? And so, and then the next part of these here, verses 12 through 21, we won't read all of these, but in the next few verses, Eliphaz, he vindicates God from all of this doing. You got all these things that are unexplainable. And he's telling Job that He's relating his vision, which had convinced him of God's justice and judgment. So it is encouragement. And in times of situations that we may go through, whether it be a loss of a loved one, sickness, whatever it may be, don't we appreciate the encouragement of others? Absolutely. Very important. Very much so. Especially, you see somebody on the street that maybe it's just an acquaintance, and they give you encouragement. That's good. But your close friends, boy, encouragement from them goes a long way. And this is, from Eliphaz, it is some encouragement for him. So, certainly as we go through life, as we've often said, we have many acquaintances, but really very few friends, what we call true friends. And here he is, of the three friends that he's got, he's going to be the one that's going to give him the encouragement. Now, these three friends, do you think they were close friends?
When you're encouraged, you got to be close.
Yeah. They were close. And but why would you suppose that his other friends do not give him the encouragement?
They may have harbored some jealousy because Job was so, blessed, wealthy, and, had so much. And in some ways, they may have harbored some resentment, thought about, maybe he deserved some punishment.
Yeah. Maybe lack of understanding, jealousy. Yeah, absolutely.
You might have done something wrong for God to allow this to happen to him.
Yeah, that thought comes across as you look at these other friends. That thought does come across that, Job, to go through all you're going through, you've had to do something. Yeah, that's right. Something ain't right. And so that's exactly right. And so that thought and that comes through as you read about the other friends. Eliphaz is not the one who's doing that. He's giving him encouragement. But now, sometimes when we are dealing with various issues, whatever they may be, sometimes the best medicine is someone to listen and someone to give us good, sound advice and encouragement. Now, whether or not we accept that advice and encouragement, that's up to us. But if it's intended in the right way, that can be very, very beneficial. Then it gets into chapter 5. In the first few verses here of chapter 5, Eliphaz is telling him, Job, you don't have anyone to turn to. Notice what it says at the beginning of verse 1. Call now, if there be any that will answer you, and to which of the saints will you turn? For wrath killeth the foolish man, and envy slayeth the silly one. I have seen the foolish taken root, but suddenly I curse his habitation. His children are far from safety, and they are crushed in the gate. Neither is there any to deliver them, whose harvest the hungry eateth up, and taketh the heathen out of the thorns, and of the robber swalloweth up their substance. Although affliction cometh not forth of the dust, neither doth trouble spring out of the ground. Yet man is born unto trouble, and as the sparks fly upward. So as we see in these first 7 verses, Job, you're going through a lot. Job, you don't have anybody to turn to. Have you ever felt that way? you're discouraged, things are not going well, you don't know, you don't know what to do. You don't know who to turn to. That's probably happened to a lot of people. He's telling Job, you don't have anybody to turn to. Now, how depressing do you think that thought can be that you have no one to turn to? It can be very depressing. And that's exactly right. You always have God. You don't have anyone else, you've got God. And many people don't realize that. Now, I'm all alone. Man, no, we're not. Whatever our circumstance may be, we are not alone. We've always got God available. Now, and that brings up a good point. When do we, as people, how often do we connect with God, if you will? As Christians, we have the avenue of prayer available. Are we thankful for what God has done, for His blessings, for His love, for His concern, and on we could go with that. Are we thankful for that? Then also, when does He hear from us? Does God hear from us on a regular basis, or just when we need something? Sometimes my phone might ring and I look at it and I say, oh no. What do they want now? The old saying goes, it seems like it never stops. God wants to hear from us, not just in the bad times, but in the good times. Be thankful. Be grateful. You just somebody in my email the other day, there's so much to be thankful for. And if we just go on and on listing things, things that we take for granted, be thankful for them. Because we do have someone to turn to. And it may be a physical person here on earth, but God's always there. And for that we can certainly be grateful. And in verses 8 through 16, he's telling them, so, this is what you need to do. You need to turn to God. And notice what he says in verse 8. I would seek unto God, and to God would I commit my cause. And that pretty well answers it right there. Job, look to God. Turn to God. God knows your struggles. He knows what you're going through. He knows how things are going. And he says in verse 9, he does great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. And he goes on talking about how he gives rain and all that stuff. So Job, maybe you're looking in the wrong direction. Turn to God. Look to God. What greater advice could he have given him than that? None. None. And there's a lesson there for us. When things are not going well with us, turn to God. But even when things are going good, turn to God. Gratitude. Be thankful. So, Eliphaz is giving us some very good instruction here, and that's significant. That's important. So, beginning in verse 8 through 16, he's advising him to seek God. But then, as he gets into the latter part of chapter 5, verses 17 through 26. It says, what time they wax warm, they vanish. When it is hot, they are consumed out of their place. The paths of their way are turned aside. they go off to nothing and perish. The troops of Timnah looked, the companies of Sheba waited for them. They were confounded because they had hoped. They came then were ashamed. For now you are nothing. You see my casting down. You are afraid and are afraid. Did I say, bring unto me, or give a reward for me of your substance? Or deliver me from enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the mighty? So, in verses 17 through 26, his concept here is God's chastening benefits the recipient. I actually reading in 6 right there, but I should have been in 5. I'm glad you caught that. Well, me and Joe had the same profession. We put people to sleep. Joe's wakes up, and I think sometimes mine do. But yeah, I was reading that, but anyway, yeah, in chapter 5, that's the concept. God's cleansing benefits the recipient. And so, and then in verse 27, he concludes chapter 5. Lo, this, we have searched it, so it is, hear it, and know thou it for thy good. Job, God's with you. And so, it's important that we realize that God's with us. He's not going to leave us. So, and Job's learning that lesson. Then he gets into chapter 6. Notice these first few verses, Job's reaction. But Job answered and said, Oh, that my grief were thoroughly weighed, and my calamity laid in the balances together. For now it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words are swallowed up. For the arrows of the Almighty are within me. The poison whereof drinketh up my spirit. The terrors of God do set themselves in array against me. Doth the wild donkey be brave when he hath grass, or loweth the ox of his fodder? Can that which is unsavory be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? The things thou say, my soul refused to touch, are as my sorrowful meat. These words that Eliphaz has given to Job, what is Job's reaction here in these first 7 verses? Does he find encouragement?
Just that, he restates what his burden is heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got a heavy burden. And these words can be words of comfort, but at the same time, they can be inspiring. They can help you to begin to realize your condition, to think about it. But he's burdened. He got a lot on him.
No words are swallowed up.
That's right. If someone comes to you in your times of need, whatever it might be, and they give you some good words of encouragement, when that person leaves, do you immediately accept what he or she may have said? Not all the time.
You try to think about it.
It may make you think. That's exactly right. It gives you something to consider, something to think about. Job's gone through a lot. And I would doubt that one visit is going to solve all of his problems.
First time he asked him to cut off his life.
That's right. So, he needs these words of encouragement. But it's going to take more than just a few words. He's got to overcome a lot. That's not easy to do. No. We go through struggles. Someone comes to us. It certainly should help, and we're grateful for it. But that one time is not necessarily going to solve the problem. Might need some ongoing encouragement. And to help us get through whatever it might be that we're dealing with. So he's given these words, and but now verses 8 through 13 are very, very challenging words here. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would grant me the thing that I long for. Now, what does he ask for? Death. Exactly right. Even though it would please God to destroy me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. Then should I yet have comfort. Yea, I would harden myself in sorrow. Let it not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. What is my strength that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh of brass? Is not my help in me? And is wisdom driven quite from me? No. Even after those words of encouragement, he still wants his request to be honored, death. So those words of encouragement, as beneficial as they were and as important as they were, they have not totally solved the issue here. And they're not going to. But Eliphaz is putting forth a genuine effort to assist him, to help him. But he is so deep in confusion and depression that he's wanting death. He had longed for that. He had asked for that in the previous chapters. So he still has not given up on that request. He longs for death. Now, consider this. In a situation like Job is in, or perhaps us, if we are so frustrated, we're so depressed that we would long for death, does death solve the problem? No, it doesn't, does it? That's exactly right. And many times, death not only, like you say, you consider the afterlife, but many times a person longing for death, whatever their troubles are, depending on what it might be, of course, their troubles may be passed on to somebody else. They're survivors. So, a lot of times when this happens, people are considering themselves, and they're not thinking about others. What's the impact it may have on others? At this point, of course, Job's lost all of his family, except for his wife. Right now, it doesn't appear that he's thinking about her. He just wanting to get out of this situation. No, she wasn't. She was not very much encouragement. So, we can understand this frustration. What would we do if we encountered the things that he's encountered? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. But, he's gone a lot. And we could kind of understand why he would request this, get me out of this. But that's not the answer. As we know, the things that are taking place with him was not his fault. God allowed Satan to tempt him. And God also knew what Job's reaction was going to be. So it's a challenge. Well, in chapter 7, the first few verses deals with his anguish and his helplessness. Is there not an appointed time to man upon earth? Are not his days also like the days of a hireling? As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, and as a hireling looketh for the reward of his work. So I am made to possess months of vanity, and wearisome nights are appointed to me. Where I lie down, I say, when shall I arise, and the night be gone? I'm full of tossings, to and fro, unto the dawnings of the day. My flesh is clothed with worms and clods of dust. My skin is broken. So these first 10 verses, he is dealing with his feeling of anguish. Look what's going on. I can't sleep at night. I'm tossing and turning. My flesh is having issues. And where's the hope? That's pretty much what he's considering here in these first 10 verses. Where's my hope? I don't see any hope. So that's kind of where he is with these first 10 verses, talking about his feeling hopeless and not having any hope. And then in the 11 through 21, he asks for an explanation from God as to why all this is going on. So that's kind of where he is in his concept here. So Eliphaz certainly gives him a lot to consider, something to think about, but he's got to think upon it. So that's a brief summary of the challenges of verses 4 through 7. I will stop there. A few more is beginning to come in, and hopefully those who didn't set the clock show up. A lot of people do. Yeah, a lot of people do. I don't care for that. That's exactly right. These different translations read different. They read
The New King James
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We can, but NIV, it don't read the same way in a lot of things. Right.